hey, this Jesus guy, is he for us? Is he for us as Miros, as African people? He doesn't look like me. He doesn't sound like me. Can I really connect with him? Welcome to part 2 of this conversation on Always On, conversations on church and media. If you didn't catch part 1, make sure you catch it. But here we go. We've had such a good conversation so far. And by the way, if you haven't caught the first part of this thing, make sure that you can. Such a good conversation. Now, you were telling me about so Christianity predating even colonialists by years and years, literally centuries.
By centuries.
By centuries.
By centuries.
Are you guys hearing? Christianity was here centuries before.
Yes.
Just tell us about that, because I need to hear about that.
So actually it starts in the Bible. It starts in the Bible. It starts in the
You're
Bible.
going too far back. I thought you would say
that's 2,000 years. Yeah, you know. No, but really, yeah, because at the Pentecost, when there's the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and all of that is happening, there are Africans there.
Yeah.
There are Egyptians there. There are people from Libya and so on.
Wait.
Yeah.
If I read my Bible,
yes.
Will I find an African guy?
So you are going to find Africans.
Tell me some Africans I can find.
You're going to find the people at Pentecost. You're going to find Simon, the guy who carried the cross for Jesus. That was an African.
Black Lives Matter.
That was Simon of Cyrene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Cyrene is?
Cyrene is in Libya.
Okay.
Yeah. But even before that, probably Jesus could speak some African languages. Ask me why. Because when he was a kid, in fact, when he had just been born,
you're right,
and there was infanticide,
you're right,
they escaped in Egypt, and they came back when Jesus was probably a toddler.
And that time, Egypt was not Arabic. That part of the world was not. First of all, it was not. There's a question as to what is Arabic really, because it's the race of the people in Middle East. So they are Syrians. Fair enough.
But the people in Egypt were seen as Africans. In fact, the pharaohs were black.
That's another thing, man. I'm just like. All the movies I watch, the Pharaoh looks nothing like me.
Yeah, I know. Well, but there's a prince of Egypt is actually.
That is true.
They did their research and they figured that one out. So, but anyway, Jesus' kids, the kids that he used to play with in the neighborhood in Egypt when they were running away from, were Africans.
Yeah.
So
it's likely he picked up some of that culture.
He could have picked up the culture, he could have picked up the language. They were, at that time, it was not a big deal whether you are black or white or from Africa or from wherever. It wasn't. That is why Simon happened to have been there. He picked up the cross. So that's another African. The Africans at Pentecost. And then there are also in Acts chapter 8, there's the Ethiopian eunuch. Philip, is walking and he meets up with this Ethiopian eunuch. This is an African. He's someone from the continent, from farther south in the continent, and he converts. And the tradition is that he came back and was a founder of the church on the continent.
So in the early days,
yes.
You're talking about Acts.
Yes, I'm talking about the first 100 years of Christianity.
That African people were present.
And not just present and not just being converted, but also involved in mission. I'll give you an example. Acts chapter 13. Acts chapter 13, after Jerusalem, the next most significant place where the church is Antioch. Antioch, it's a cosmopolitan place, it's a trading city and everything. The church there has 5 leaders, the 5 opinion shapers. When a big thing, God is going to do a big thing over there. These are the 5 leaders, the executive team, if you want to call it, or the council of leadership, or local church council, whatever you want to call that. 5 guys over there. Paul is there. There's Barnabas is a part of that. There are 3. There's a guy called Manaen. And then there's there's someone who was called Simon the Niger, or Simon the Nigger. You could the Negro. He's a dark guy from there. And then there's also someone from Cyrene. 2 Africans out of 5 people. And in fact, when Paul and Barnabas were sent out, of the 3 remaining, 2/3 of the team is an African team. So we have Africans over there. We have who's the other person? Apollos. Apollos, a big figure, a theologian. He's the guy, teaching, connecting Christianity to the scriptures. he was a Jew. He was a Hebrew from Africa as well. So yeah, you know, there are many Africans in the Bible, and it starts from that time.
Okay. So let's move on. How does this thing get into Africa?
Yeah. So okay.
And are there any, you know, large prevailing church movements in Africa?
Yeah. So there are many. There are many. Some of them, you know, sort of died out, but some of them have continued. And so there was a strong Christian community in Alexandria,
which is
in Egypt.
Okay,
in fact, in North Africa. So in fact, Alexandria is I think the second biggest city in Egypt today, and it has a long tradition. In fact, over there, the first like university and theological school was started there. It's called Alexandrian Catechetical School. Another big name for an institution. It's a university. University, there's learning going on there and so on. And then you have Cyrene. You know, the communities which is in Libya. Then you have Carthage. Carthage, which is in Tunisia, Algeria. You know, that nexus. Yeah. And then you have the church in Nubia. Which is kind of like southern Egypt or Sudan, what do you want to call it? And then there's Egypt, there's Ethiopia, and there are Christian communities over there. Now, over time, some of those communities became weaker, like in Nubia, for example, in Carthage, in Cyrene. They became,
just the geopolitics of the time.
The geopolitics of the time, and the impact of Islam and trade.
Yes.
But then two movements endured. In Ethiopia and in Egypt. And in Egypt is what we now call the Coptic Church. Now the word Copt or Coptic refers to a people. You know, it's a people group. You know, the way you would refer to like Buganda, you would say like...
So it's not like the you say Methodist or Anglican, it's not the same. This is the people.
They spoke Copt. They spoke a language called Copt. And it was their culture. And if you look at the church in Egypt or the Coptic church, it is very unique. It has certain uniquenesses to it. You know, the way the way they do their worship, the way they do their aesthetic, the way they draw their crosses, you know, all those things are different. Even the depictions of Jesus is not white and blonde. It's different.
Shock on us.
Shock on us. We have Africans who depict Jesus differently. And then Ethiopia.
You know, if I went somewhere and I saw a picture of a black Jesus, I'm like, this is a cult. Because that's what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, and in Ethiopia, here's the thing. If you go to Ethiopia, there are depictions of Jesus again is a person of color. And we have you know, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which they speak.
That's the second movement.
That's the second movement
that
endured for a long time, for centuries. And they have their own traditions, you know. They speak their own language, and they write their own script. They have their own tradition of bishops and saints, and even some of the. Yeah, you know.
Okay. You know. First, all of that again coming at it from 21st century eyes sounds very strange because our entire perception of church is the white pope. You know what I mean? It's white. So what you're saying is that in Africa, starting in Antioch, across northern Africa, spreading down towards the eastern part of Africa, that Christianity actually began to... And it's interesting because this is before it went into Europe. And I want us to talk about that in just a moment. I know you're itching for that. But before we get to that, okay, so Christianity is there in Egypt, in Tunisia, in... Ethiopia and other parts of Africa.
Nubia, Sudan, you know.
Me, I'm in Kenya. I'm just like, I'm happy for those guys that it reached there. But I'm like, as we are guys of the mountain, as guys are looking at the mountain, facing the mountain and praying there before, what does that have to do with me? I'm glad it reached Ethiopia. But me in Kenya, I say. What about me? How do you respond to that?
I think there are several important things to note about that. The first is that I think we all need to agree that those are not those guys anymore. When we talk about Christianity in Ethiopia, we're talking about people like us. We have Ethiopian genes. In fact, there are people who have studied and they said, we were at the mountain, but there was some, interaction with Ethiopians. Now, they didn't come.
Plus we didn't have the borders that we have today.
No,
countries.
Yeah. So people, travel all the way and come down all the way. So there's that kind of connection. So it's not really them and us. We are together. But I think, secondly, and very, very importantly, is to say that there is, in our being, wherever we are, I think God was preparing for us, preparing for us a space into which we would get into for us to receive Christ. And we can talk about that, in another moment. But that was not a wasted moment. Let's also remember that historically speaking, those people that we say were in the mountain, came in a little later.
That is true as well. You're right.
There was, the Bantus that have come down from Congo down into South Africa and have been coming back up. And some people would argue, around 1500, maybe a little earlier, is when we would have arrived. In
and this is much later then.
Yeah, there was Christianity going
centuries before that.
Centuries before that. Maybe they came down and didn't find anybody in the mountain. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it would be an interesting study to do that. But I think it would be very important, especially if maybe more of us need to speak Giz, or the language that they speak in Ethiopia, because they've written all those things down. Maybe there are missionaries who came down and they didn't find anybody. Or maybe they found someone and, it was different.
Let me ask you then. So, again, it's all well and good about Christianity. It started where it started, it spread to where it spread. But for us guys, I have my African traditional religion. You're a pastor, so you proselytize. You tell us, convert to this.
Yes.
Why should I leave mine for yours? You know what I mean? Like we had religion that was working, that was thriving. Before, whether it's the spread of Christianity, whether it's colonialists and the missionaries. We had our thing going on. Why am I leaving that? Is there something wrong? Is yours earlier you talked about the way the missionaries may have come with a condescending attitude. Is Christianity condescending towards African traditional religion?
I think that that's a good question, and it's a question that is asked a lot, because whenever there's an encounter or a clash of religions, as some people have called it, the real questions arise as to, and the way we normally look at it is, is one superior to the other, and because one is superior to the other, then the other one must.
There's yours and there's mine.
And Christian faith, unlike some of the other major religions of the world, is not like that. Because Christianity is really an incarnational religion. It's
pastor. Yes. You gotta break it down.
Yes. So it is a Christianity that enters into the skin, into the life,
the fabric
of the people. So to come back to your question, we had our faith. We had African traditional religion, and that religion is what sufficed for us at that particular point in time. But then, Christianity comes, and, really quickly just to say, when Christianity came, by the way, by that time the missionary had gone, at least in East Africa. The missionary sort of started withdrawing around the 1930s, the World War and everything. And so we have few missionaries. So at that time, once the missionaries begin to withdraw, and we begin to read the scriptures in our own languages, we begin to articulate Christianity and to accept Christianity, and to have forms of Christianity that are indigenous to us, that are sensitive to our own, sensitivities, and so on. But then, phenomenal growth happens after the missionary has gone back. Phenomenal growth happens, and someone could say, well, the missionaries still, they blackmailed everybody, or they whitewashed everybody, or their education, made everyone forget, indoctrinated people and made them to remove their religions. Well, one could say, but it doesn't quite hold water. There are other places around the world where that didn't happen. Why the Africans? Is it, how come there are certain things in our African tradition, you know, with their funerals, for example, so that didn't go. I think the most appropriate response to that is what Paul said in Acts 17, that Christ had a kind of redemptive completing work. And so when people came face to face with Christianity, speaking its own, speaking our own languages, the scriptures have been translated into our own languages, the missionary has gone. So now the person evangelizing is someone is us, articulating Jesus to one another. Then it made sense. And it made sense in such a way that from 60 years ago, we are 90%, you know, I'm talking about Kenya here, but it could well be talking about 90% Christian, 90% African traditional religion to 85% Christian. What is it that happened there? Something connected. And what was missing, I feel, was completed. And someone has said that it was, you know, African traditional religion prepared the way for us to understand Christianity. It's like it was Christianity without Christ. And when Christ came in, he completed the picture.
So it's almost like we as people are on this search, and in our search we find, you know, whether it's just things that help us point towards God. We're looking for things that help us point toward God. And what you're saying is that when Christianity comes, people realize this is the thing.
This is the thing when Christ comes, really.
Yeah, when Christ comes,
when Christ himself comes. Because this Christian is coming in with many things. It's coming in with clothes, it's coming in with all the different things, it's coming with names and all of that. But people adopt it. People adopt that faith. And what is it? Christ entered over there.
You know, early on you told me something very interesting, because we always talk about African traditional religion. You told me about European traditional religion. And the fact that Christianity in Africa, first it predates Christianity in Europe, in a lot of Europe. But that they had the traditional religions there that were impacted by Christianity in a very similar way. I had never heard that. We want to talk about that in just a moment. Always on Conversations on Church and Culture. Make sure you catch part 1 of this conversation. This is part 2. Part 3 will be loading in just a moment.